Welcome to the Superpower Success Podcast. At Keystone, we believe exceptional organizations don't just happen. They are built by focused leaders that recognize their authentic leadership superpowers. Join us for a serious dose of inspiration. Welcome to the Superpower Success Podcast. So we don't have a lot of repeat guests on the Superpower Success Podcast, but when a guest is on and gets some of the highest numbers and listens of any podcast we've ever had, we take notice. And so today we have a repeat guest from, we don't even know how long, probably a year and a half ago at least, but Kelly Aronson, who's the Chief Digital Officer at Aronson Corporation. Also, I'd like to say a dear friend of mine and hiking companion, is back with us because every time Kelly and I have a conversation, I leave it going, God, that'd be a really great podcast episode. So Kelly, first off, thanks for coming back after the first time. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. I don't know if you remember, Jamie, but you were my first podcast and you predicted that I would have many more since, and I have, but it's like coming home to be back on your podcast. So thanks for having me.
I forgot that. So, okay. Well, I'm just happy to be the origin story of all your fame and success. So thank you for coming back to us. But, I think now you've done a lot more in all of us. I mean, a year and a half, it feels like, in today's world, it feels like 10 and how much we've changed and evolved. Yeah. So I'm excited for the conversation today. But if people haven't listened to the last one, and even if they have, will you just give us, the cliff notes of kind of your leadership journey? What's gotten you to this point and your level of success?
Sure, absolutely. I think when I've started to think back on what the origins of my journey into technology were, and they really started from a young age, and getting curious about technology early on with my mom having a job in our school's computer lab, getting access to computers when other people didn't have them. And just it created in me this lifelong interest in technology, how things work. And that's really propelled me through all of my different leadership roles in technology. I started my official career out of college at Aronson Consulting, which became Accenture. I had technology roles at Thomson Reuters and Target, all really great large companies. And almost 10 years ago, on a whim, took a call from Aronson Corporation and really fell in love with the mission, the role in the community, the legacy of the company here in Minnesota. And so I've never looked back. It's been the greatest joy of my career to be part of Aronson. And then, about 5 years ago, stepping into the role of Chief Digital Officer and getting to really guide the strategy and the execution of all things digital at Aronson.
Yeah, it's fun to just see and to know more, right, about Aronson too, and understanding that company. And it is really really large community-based organization, right? And having that vision and mission and purpose that feels like something you can touch every day, I think is important to everyone, right? It's a really big employment value right now for a lot of people. So, you've been around the block just like me, it's right? Like you've been in your career, the things, right? Domain expertise is great, but you reach a certain point where you're kind of beyond domain expertise when you're learning and growing. When you look back, even over the last 5 years with just the pace of change and everything that's going on, like, are there moments or, leadership moments where you're like, I really started to change or evolve as a leader? And are you still kind of in that growth moment today?
That's a really good question, Jamie. I think when I first took the role of Chief Information Officer at Aronson, I was worried about, I don't know every single piece of every single technology. And I then quickly realized no one could, and that's not necessarily my role. My role is to know enough, but also to know when to lean in, when to kind of learn, and when to step back and empower my team to run. And so that's been a good kind of lesson. The more you move up in leadership, you have to rely on your team, your instincts, and then understanding kind of when to dive deep and when to create space. But I would say, I think the greatest struggle and growth, which often go together in my career, was really with COVID and just navigating that. And you and I think we're on a panel talking about that even just a couple of years ago. And just the test that it gave me as a leader who had to be there for my team, who had to kind of lead through adversity, a ton of uncertainty, navigating changing work environments, being in person, 100% remote, hybrid, and just a lot of, it was change management, like on every single level, and trying to be that beacon of hope and confidence for the team. And I think that, I think of myself as an authentic and empathetic leader, but that really kind of tested my stamina on those fronts over the last few years. And so for me, it's exciting to at least be further out from that, to have processed some of the lessons learned and be able to move forward and into the next chapter of just my career and where we're at Anderson, and kind of focus on, again, the execution, the resurrection of the mission, really focusing on the future growth of our business.
I love that. There's a couple of things you said that I think are really important, because we hear this from leaders. Is first off, you can't outwork the job of an executive, right? So your list is never done. You never have all the answers, right? It's that idea of you can't outwork that job. So if you're trying to, that's really where the burnout comes from, is that's not really what you're looking to do. And you need to just know the next right answer for the team, right? And that's kind of what you were saying, is like, I don't know the final thing. We're working together as a team, but I know the next right thing to help guide you on. And then the third thing you said, we talk a lot about leaders being dealers of hope. And you can be a dealer of hope even in a dark time, right? Or in a crisis, or like, how do you keep your energy level, right? And keep that hope piece? Because I think that's a word that's underutilized in a corporate environment today, is how do you help your team see past the crisis? Like, what are some of those approaches that you use?
I love that. I love the dealer of hope. I haven't heard that, but I feel that. And I do feel like I have a lot of energy. I get that comment a lot. My dad calls me the Energizer Bunny, but I think it's about, you have to have that. I pour myself into my team and my work, and not in a way that's outworking the work, but like it is truly something that I'm passionate about. And so I think it's modeling the way, it's having, being a source of inspiration, taking time for myself, like self-care and other things, so that I do have the energy to give to the team. And then really, how do you focus on those big opportunities for the team to win, or to take moments to celebrate, or understand those milestones? Because our careers are marathons. The work that we do is multi-year work. And so it's really being that cheerleader and promoting the team and promoting the vision and reminding people of the work we're doing, and having fun along the way. I think, it's having that positivity, radiating kindness and confidence, and just, making sure that we're modeling the kind of leadership that we want people to feel good about, kind of walking in the path of.
Yeah, which is what we would call conscious leadership, which is also a blog series that you're writing. We call it the leadership of the future. It should be the leadership of all the time, right? But as the generational shifts happen, it is this, and there's some people that are going to hear optimist and cheerleader and think, well, it's not all happy all the time. And knowing you, it's not that it's like the false optimism. It's we've tackled harder things before. We can also tackle this, right? It's that perspective shift.
Yeah.
You're helping.
Yeah. I think it's putting things in context, and, having levity in the situation. And you're right. I think it's not just a cheerleader for the sake of cheerleader, and there can be false kind of promotion. But if it's very much like, how can I help you? How can I support you? What obstacles can I remove? Can I be a thought partner? And just like all of those things, and a key collaborator, and just being really intentional with all that you do.
Yeah. What's it, just in the past couple of years, even, like, if you think back, what's a really important lesson that you've learned as a leader? Like, does something stick out to you that you whether learned about yourself or about the world or how to lead?
I think lots of lessons every day. I gotta think of the culmination of one. I think I'm always reminded that it's important to be clear about what you know, and be clear about what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And you can get yourself in trouble if you confuse the two, or you are trying to make it seem like you know something that you don't. And I have found that it's refreshing to people when you're really clear about those two things. And then when you don't know, do you need to know, and how are you going to learn that? And so I've had to immerse myself. I talked just a few minutes ago about becoming the chief digital officer and not knowing every piece of technology and every component, but there were some things that it was important that I did learn. And so how did I go about learning that to the level I needed to be successful? And it's a lot of times full immersion, or it's going to the place of learning that you need to get to in order to get behind and understand the importance of that technology or that system. And so I think it's going to the people and kind of understanding what it is that you're trying to learn.
And creating that normalization of you're human. I think what we're missing in a lot of organizations is humanizing leadership, which is exactly what you're doing.
Right.
You just say you're human, you have strengths and weaknesses, you have domain expertise, and you have areas that you don't like. And I think as leaders, sometimes we feel like we have to put this front up for confidence of the team. And kind of like we've got it all together when Lord knows we don't got it all together.
Right.
And that authenticity and vulnerability is hard for some leaders because they think it'll have the opposite effect, right? Their team will be nervous that they don't know it or they don't know. And I'm assuming you would guide them and say it's the opposite.
I think so. But I think it's, everyone has their own style. For me, I don't know any way to be but that authentic and raw and vulnerable. It's just, it's who I am. So I think, but not being afraid of that and understanding that there's greater power in that than there is, and kind of, just like you can't outwork your job, you can't kind of put up a front on something, like it will crumble and fall. And so, the truer you are to yourself, I think the people, that work around you see that and understand that and gravitate to that.
Yeah. And it's not that that's always easy. I mean, especially at certain points in your career, if you're at a new company or right. But really checking that ego and that humility to just say, if I'm not in a place where I can be safe enough to say, I've got something I need to learn here, that should be your reevaluation, right? Not saying where you're at. So.
And it can be lonely. I mean, we talked during COVID about, if you're trying to provide that source of hope and confidence and security and safety for your team, and you don't have, it's lonely at the top. It's who's your person to kind of help promote you and give you that confidence, and it's hard. And so you have to really dig deep or understand when you might have hit your limit and need to reset.
Right. So I know you are a huge model for growth. Right. You talk a lot about your own growth. You talk a lot about the experiences and the things that you do, even at your stage, to grow. What are some things you're doing right now to help you grow into the next level of leadership, whatever your next evolution is?
Yeah, I think so much of my growth at this point in my career is taking risks and trying new things and doing things I'm not comfortable with. So even writing a blog series is me getting out of my comfort zone and putting it out there and challenging myself to do that. I think, I've had a lot of people comment on my LinkedIn presence. And a few years ago, I didn't have a presence. And then I made an intentional decision a couple of years ago that I really wanted to embrace that. And part of it was because I believe so much in the power of representation. And there are not a lot of technology and manufacturing leaders that look like me. And so how do I kind of create space and a presence for that so people can see like women succeeding in roles like this? And so once I became super intentional about that, and it wasn't my natural instinct, it's been really fun to kind of create and have this creative outlet within LinkedIn. I think, I'm about to embark on a women's leadership trip with people that I do not know. And going to another country and doing, physical activities. And that's something I might not have done either younger or earlier in my career, but I'm really excited to experience that, to put myself out there, to continue to figure out what I have to learn with a bit of solitude and a bit of time with people that don't know me well. And how do I create space to cultivate my leadership style and personal growth? So a lot of different things about beyond the day-to-day tactical, but how do I grow as a person and a leader?
I love that. And, this idea of taking risks, I mean, risk tolerance is different for everybody, depending on your season of life and, where you're at. Risk can take on different, but risk is it's got a negative connotation, and risk is where all the growth comes from, as you said, right? If you don't step out into it, that's where people get stuck kind of going, I feel like I'm doing the same thing every day, or each year just kind of feels the same.
Right. I think that's hard. I think being comfortable is something we seek, but it also creates the least amount of change and growth. And so when I ask people to think back on the times in their career they grew the most and learned the most, it's often in these horrible situations with really challenging projects or dealing with work and personal stress at the same time. And when you think back on those moments, you think about all of that hardship, but then you also realize that that's what created the most growth. And so I think, it takes risk to put yourself in those situations where that can happen, especially knowing the discomfort that you're going to have. But if you do that with the confidence, knowing that you have to intentionally put yourself there to grow and learn, I think it's a really rewarding opportunity.
I have a thing I use called the 10-year test. And the question when I'm going to do something big, or something scary to me, or the unknown, will myself 10 years from now regret if I don't make this decision, if I don't do it? And it's not today, because the fear's standing right in your face and it's really hard to make that decision. But if you're thinking about the future would it want you to do this? And when you reframe it that way, it's almost always yes.
I agree. I do something similar. And then more recently, in the last couple of years, I've been really focused on what are those core values that I have in this season of my life, because they change. And so if I anchor myself to some of those core values, when decisions or opportunities present themselves to me, I just have to say, is this in alignment with what I'm intentionally seeking or not? And it makes the answers very clear in the moment. And so while it might create risk or discomfort, if it's aligned to those values, I know it's the right decision.
It's so true. So I've done personal values for years, but I think this last year I did them at a deeper level with a coach than I ever had before. And I keep them on my desk. I have a copy at home. I carry them with me. And a few months ago, I was having a week. And I was like, why? We all have them. And I was like, why do I feel this way? Why am I can't kind of get out of this? And I called my coach quick and she said, look at your values. What's going on? And it was, I have a value of freedom, and freedom meaning freedom of time and making the decisions I want to be able to do what I want to do. Abundance, which is also freedom, right? But it's and some of those things were being stifled by things that were just happening around me. And it was that awareness of okay, nothing's wrong. It's my values are being challenged right now. And what do I need to do to get control of it again? Right. Instead of waiting for someone else to fix it for me. And it was just even coming back to those values was almost normalizing the way I was feeling, to say, okay, it's pushing up against something that I don't like. And what am I going to do about it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a really powerful tool for me.
Yeah. So highly recommend, if people haven't done it. I'm sure there's stuff online you could just help you walk through that. But a coach, a mentor, somebody like that can help you do that for sure. So I want to talk just a little bit about energy, because we talked about that a couple of times, and it's the biggest gap we're seeing with leaders and executives right now is not a good process or system to manage their own energy. And if you have nothing to give, right, you can't give energy to others, and you can't have kind of modeled that. What do you do in a stressful job, right? And there's a lot going on to manage your own energy day to day.
I love that. I'm so intentional about managing my energy. One of my conscious leadership blogs was recently about habits and habit stacking. And so I am the queen of habits, habit stacking, the mantra, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's all to me about, no matter what your title, what your age, we all only have 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And so how are you going to manage that in a way that reflects your values, creates space for you, protects your energy, sets boundaries. And that is not a set it and forget it. It's every single day and every single week requiring intention. So I have a lot of practices, including prepping for my week on Sunday to set myself up for success, whether that's pre-planning my schedule, my workout time, really thinking about the places I need to be. I am in an office environment or in a working environment most days every week, but that could be different office buildings. It could be work travel. It could be, meeting with clients or suppliers in different parts of town. So it's being really intentional about mapping out my week, thinking about what I need to be successful for that week, creating the right space for my own time. I really switched in the last couple of years to almost exclusively working out first thing in the morning, just so that I can have that space and know that I'm not chasing down a time slot for the rest of the day. And it really does set myself up and my mindset up for success, knowing that I've already done something for myself before I start pouring into others. And so I think it's just about those different practices. And I'm not perfect every day. And I think if you miss something or you miss a habit or you miss a day, not getting deterred by that, but just really starting over the next day and starting back and setting yourself up for success again. So for me, that's been really important. And I would say in the last year, I've really started adding more conscious boundaries. I think I used to think of that as like, oh, that seems kind of silly. And what are, like your boundaries, but it's true. And once I kind of had the values and then had these guardrails of boundaries and did some reflection on what are situations that create a good version of me and what are some situations that create a bad version of me. So a bad version of me is having meetings before 7:30 in the morning, because that makes me anxious. It eats into my workout time. I start my day feeling behind schedule. And I was getting more and more people putting meetings on my calendar before then. And then I was very intentional in 2024 and said, this is a boundary I have. It can be, opened up for the right reason. But if you need to cross this boundary, you need to, write to me why you really need this meeting before 7:30. And guess what? There's not really a lot of good reasons about why someone would need a meeting with me before 7:30. And so I've created then space for me just to be a better version of me. And that might look different for someone else, but I try to give examples of boundaries I set so people understand it doesn't have to be so grandiose. It can be these little things, but what do you have to put in place to create the best version of yourself?
And it's so interesting. You're kind of giving me a flashback to even my corporate time, and time management, work-life balance, it was choices. And every day you have choices to make. Like you said, the same 24 hours that any other successful person has. How are you making those choices? If you choose to not get up and work out because your body needs to rest, it's a choice. And tomorrow you can make another choice. Right? But that idea of I've never really struggled on the corporate, well, now I do as an entrepreneur, but when I see people in corporate of I work till 7 to 8 p.m. I'm I would just put boundaries up when I was in corporate. People knew, right? Even when I was late 20s, 30s, I didn't realize what I was doing. But you would be shocked at how respected you will be when you put boundaries up, because people are wow, you're inspiring them to put their own boundaries up. And I think we think it's the opposite. People are going to think why are you lazy? Why are you hard to work with? And it's the opposite of what people actually think.
Absolutely. And I think you only know those boundaries yourself, and you can become a victim of your own situation, but we're our own worst, I'm not asking anyone to work till 10 p.m. If they're doing that, that's their choice, right? And it's just finding out what your work style is, what your habits are, the environment you work best in. And we all have our different things. So it's just it's focusing on yourself and what's the environment, what are the guardrails, what are the boundaries I need to be the best self I need. And the older you get, the more clear that becomes. And it changes over time. I used to, when I was younger, be the person who could do bath time, put the kids to bed, and then power work a couple nights a week till 1 a.m. I cannot do that. My brain doesn't work after 9 p.m. anymore. It's a gift of aging. But what I can do is get up early because I don't have to take anyone to daycare, right? So it's totally. These are just evolving to where you're at in your life, your season of life, what's working for you, and that will change over time.
It totally. And then the other piece, and I know this is the Anderson culture, is being in a place that kind of allows you to be in that season of life and have the flexibility and autonomy to say, if 4 to 7 p.m. is the most important part of my day because of my kids or whatever it is, and then 7 to 9 or 10, I can get back at it and I don't resent the company. But you have to be able to create a culture that allows people to work and put the boundaries up the way they need to.
And you have to like what you do and believe in what you're doing. And only you can do that for yourself, right? And if you don't feel that way, you have to really have some self-reflection and think about what it is that you want to do. But I wake up every day loving the company I work for, loving my role, loving the people I work with. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it gives me, it is a really great gift to be able to have a career and a work environment that, fulfills me in so many different ways.
Right. And a lot of that is also perspective. It's super easy every day for all of us to find the few things that did not go well.
Right.
It's really hard to have gratitude. And this is something I'm working on like every morning is to have gratitude for the things that the good things far outweigh the negative things on a day-to-day basis. Right. It's just where you put your energy and your focus.
Absolutely.
That's why I like being around you. And that also draws in, right? People are drawn to that type of energy as a leader. So you don't have to be an extrovert or an introvert. It doesn't matter to have that level of energy and hope and an approach that you can give to people.
Yeah, I think it's about that natural curiosity too, wanting to hear about people, wanting to hear about challenges, wanting to solve problems. Like, I think fundamentally, that's what a lot of us want to do. And so how do you find a space that allows you to do that?
I think that's a perfect piece of advice for the leaders listening to end this is get curious, right? Figure out where that curiosity, because I think that also energizes us when we can get back into that almost beginner's mindset. Like, I don't know, and let me dig in and kind of find it out. I think that can be very energizing. So I've got a couple of fun questions before we let you go. So the first one is, how many cups of coffee a day?
1, but it's a Starbucks venti, and I can pinpoint the moment in 2013. It went from grande to venti, and I never looked back. It was in the middle of a very challenging project, and I was working at the city center downtown. And one day, my grande iced latte turned into a venti, and it's been bliss for the last 11 years. But it's one venti iced coffee, and then we're done. Because then I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't.
Yep, that is also a part of aging. Okay, so binge-worthy show right now. Not that you have time to watch TV with everything you have going on, but what is the binge-worthy show you're watching right now? This is going
to be a longer answer than you want, but I set a New Year's resolution for myself this year to start watching TV, which sounds like, yes, which always gets people like, wait, what? But I haven't watched TV really for the last 10 years. I've been busy. I've been raising kids. I've been working and just wasn't my jam. But I decided this year is the year of Kelly, and Kelly would like to watch TV. And so I took in all of this input there. Everyone wants to tell you what they're watching. And I came, down to announce to my 2 daughters who are 20 and 17, I have decided the show I'm going to watch. And so they were like anxiously anticipating my final decision. And I said, Grey's Anatomy. And they're like very questionable about this choice. They love Grey's Anatomy. They're always watching it. So I said, I thought this was great. You guys both love it. I think it's going to be amazing. And they're like, we don't know if you can emotionally handle it. But I am proud to say that I am now, it's June, and I've averaged 1 season a month. So I'm watching it exclusively before bed at night to unwind. It's been better than scrolling on my phone. And I'm here for all of the McSteamy, the McDreamy. It's been a good experience for me.
I watched Grey's Anatomy when it was like first out, but it's having a comeback. The teenagers are like into
it's 19 seasons in, so I'm like, this is great for me. It can be a long-term commitment.
A long-term commitment. I love it to Grey's Anatomy. Well, we can talk Grey's Anatomy all day long. I love it. Yeah. So the last question is, I'm going to give you a billboard on a major interstate here in town.
Okay.
Put anything on it you want to put on it. What would you put on the billboard?
Oh my gosh, Jamie, that's too hard. be the joy you want to see in the world. Because joy is one of my core values. And I think to be fair, I might sound like I'm full of joy, and I do think I am, but it's not been an easy road, and I've navigated a lot of really hard things. And I think anchoring back to joy to me is different than happiness. And so, I talk a lot about my intentional leadership style, but I do want to be the joy that we want to see in the world.
You are that. So I can tell you are. I love your energy and being around you. And thank you so much for coming on here to do this again with me. Maybe you'll be the first three-peat. So we'll wait a year or so and we'll do a three-peat on this for sure. But thank you for sharing your wisdom. And because I think it's so important for people to see leaders that have succeeded. And I'm using air quotes, right? To the rest of it, you've gotten to this level of success and you're like, no, I got more to learn. I've got more to do, and Absolutely. We're never done. And I think our world needs more of these types of conversations right now to just normalize the fact that we're stronger if we do this together and if we're vulnerable and open. And it's a Absolutely. Hell of a lot more fun on the way.
And have fun along the way. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I love it. Well, good luck on your upcoming adventures and all the risks that you're kind of taking on. And to the listeners, again, this community, this podcast is meant to just give you a little dose of energy to help you go into your day, right? Go into the world and maybe have one conversation differently than what you would have before. Like, let's not overcomplicate growth. So thank you for being part of the community. Thank you for continuing to engage. And if someone needs to hear this podcast, they need the energy from Kelly, the greatest thing you can do for Kelly or I is to share this with someone else. So thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you get the latest episodes as soon as we release them. And remember to keep maximizing your unique leadership superpowers. It truly is the key to building success, both in your career and in life.